Just as a notice to everyone, this is a public meeting and we are required to record. So everyone, we are being recorded at current and will be for the duration of the meeting. I just want to do a roll call quickly. Commissioner Anderson?
I'm here.
Commissioner Blank is absent. Commissioner Bunnell is attending but late. We'll just mark her as late but absent. Commissioner Castillo?
Here.
Commissioner Dahl?
Here.
Commissioner Trimble?
Here.
Yay. All right. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do to start is I'm gonna go over a presentation that will walk you through the 4 different grant types. And you know what, let me stop for a second and say hi to you all.
Hello.
Hi. I actually just want to take a minute. Sometimes I dive into these meetings too quickly because I'm a little bit like all business. And I think I just wanted to back up for a second and just say, like, I'd love to hear from you all. If you had something uplifting or encouraging happen in this past week that you'd like to share, no pressure.
This is Jayne. I'll share.
Okay.
I was in Arizona last week and it was very warm. And I went to just didn't even know this art show was happening in Scottsdale, and it was in these big tents and they do it once a year. And it was a juried event and there were 100 artists there. And we just walked around and we were amazed at the art. And I got a lot of business cards because there were a lot of artists that do installations, you know, for maybe we need them in the future.
Yeah.
And they were from all over, and big pieces, little pieces, sculptures, outdoor pieces. And yeah, it was just really cool to be amongst art, I guess, and be warm.
Yeah. Amen. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have something. My son has been understudying with the Oregon Children's Theater for the Very Hungry Caterpillar show, which opens this weekend. And he just found out that one of the performers isn't going to be able to perform. So he's opening this weekend. So that's really exciting.
Oh my gosh. Is he nervous?
Oh no, this is what he lives for. Right?
Oh gosh, I wish I had that in me.
Yeah. Congratulations.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's exciting. So I get to go see
That's
him. We
awesome.
weren't sure if he was going to get to actually ever perform, you know, because he was understudying the role. But yeah, so he's opening weekend. So
Hopefully the other kid is okay as well, but also very exciting for your son. So
yeah, well, no, it's an adult. So there's a cast of 4. So there's 3 adults and a teen, and then he was the teen understudy. So
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very cool. Anybody else? I'll go. So I just got back I was up in Seattle for the weekend. And I was there for 2 reasons. One was I have a house in Bremerton, and I had a renter move out. And I had to get the place ready to re-rent, and I found renters. So that was really great. Like, peace of mind for me. I have some traveling nurses who are moving into my place. But I was also up there for a wedding of 2 dear friends of mine. And it was a 4-day wedding, and they did it in reverse order. So they started with the party and they ended with the ceremony. And their ceremony was on, I didn't even know this is a thing, but their ceremony was on Tuesday, which is 2/22/22. And they had this amazing ceremony out on Lincoln Park, right on the Fauntleroy ferry terminal. So it's like right there on the Sound. It was snowing, so it felt like a giant snow globe. And it was freezing, so everybody was like huddled up in blankets, and it was all like our very closest friends. and several of our friends had done like art installations, and like there was one piece that were these kind of natural found materials that had been organized into this circle, and they actually like got married. They did their vows in that circle. It was really beautiful and really just so I don't know, it felt so good to be among friends and to see everyone's faces and be outdoors and like a pretty safe environment while doing that. And so anyways, it was a good but a very long weekend. I can't believe they did that to themselves, 4 days.
That's awesome. It must have been a blast.
It was
Yeah.
fun. It was definitely fun. Yeah. Lots of car driving though, because I was staying over in Bremerton and everything was happening over in Seattle. So it was back and forth, back and forth. Thankfully, everything was in the Georgetown neighborhood. They're like big Georgetown. Their community is definitely like Georgetown centric. So that's on the south end. So it's just, easier to get in there and get out. But yeah, very fun. Anybody else? Kourtney, you want to go?
I have nothing exciting going on in my life. Has
Anything
happened.
uplifting?
I told you I binge watched Netflix all weekend. That's all I did.
Well, what did you watch?
My embarrassing trash TV. I watched Love is Blind, and then I watched Love is Blind Japan. So
Awesome.
and now
There's
this,
no shame, Kourtney, no shame.
yeah, not that this is recorded or anything. It's fine.
That's awesome.
I will say that Love is Blind Japan was way better. So I'm just putting it out there for everyone who likes trash television like me. So that's what I did all weekend.
Sounds very relaxing.
Relaxing.
Cozy. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, thank you all. I'm going to try to get in the habit of starting our meetings with like a little bit of levity and sharing. So, all right. Well, I'm just going to jump in. So let me share. Oh, let me just put a disclaimer out there. I am in a conference room. You're on a screen, which is not as big as I'd like it to be because I have my old glasses and they don't work very well. So I'm gonna limp along and hopefully I do okay. So we'll see how this goes. Okay. Can everybody see that? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So
Please also keep in mind, this is for our grant information session that we're doing tomorrow. So yes, it says February 24th.
yeah. I felt like, so I put this together, but I thought, this is actually a great way to walk
Yeah.
through our grants. Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to just jump in. Oops. Okay. So the first of the 4 grants is called the Art Lives Here Community Grants. These are grant awards up to $5,000 each. We have $15,000 in total funding available for this grant type. So this is not a matching grant, but we encourage applicants to leverage other funds raised to augment their projects. Applicants should include either potential or confirmed funding sources in their project budget. If the applicant is requesting the full award amount and their project budget falls over that amount, a clear fundraising plan must be presented with the application. Crowdfunding and fundraising through community engagement activities is encouraged. If the organization is not a 501c3, the applicant must have a fiscal agent. So these are arts related projects in Beaverton. benefiting Beaverton residents. Projects must be able to show that they serve Beaverton residents. Those projects that provide opportunities to historically marginalized and or underserved community members are most likely to be funded. Project duration may vary and could be a one-time or a recurring event, performance, art class, program, placemaking initiative, and more. Project duration may vary and could be a one-time placemaking event, performance, or other artwork installation that is on display temporarily or permanently. And what I will say from the outset is that this grant type was really created so that people could do events and art programs in the neighborhoods as sort of placemaking activities or place keeping activities, but they would be very like community centric and neighborhood centric. So all of our grants are open right now. So that's something you should know. They're all open for application. We're having our grant information session tomorrow night. And that's from 5 to 6:30. So we'll be doing an overview of all the grants and then going over some of our previously awarded grantees and then answering any questions. The submission deadline for this grant type is on March 25th. And all of our deadlines are at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll be making notification of awards by the end of May. And then all funded activities need to take place between July 1st, 2022 and July 30th, 2023. So that is the first grant type. Second is arts organizations and projects, large grants. These are grant awards, again, up to $5,000, and we have $25,000 in funding available to award. This is only open to 501c3 organizations. Awards are available to organizations offering arts and culture related programs, projects, and events that benefit Beaverton residents and which bring people together to experience and explore art, celebrate cultural diversity and inclusion, spur engagement and stewardship of art, and or educate the community on the value of art. So funding requests, again, may be up to $5,000. And this is not a matching grant, but we also, again, encourage applicants to seek additional opportunities to supplement their funding. If the applicant is requesting the full award amount and their project budget is greater, again, clear fundraising plan must be presented with the application. Crowdfunding and fundraising through community engagement is encouraged and advised. So this closes a little bit earlier. This actually closes the March 4th. So this is the first one, the first of all of our 4 grants to close. And then it's the same award date. So we'll be notifying by the end of May. Next are our small project grants. These are up to $1,000 each. And we have $10,000 in funding available. And that is for the full year. So small project grants are intended to provide support for new or unanticipated projects and those with an urgent timeline, especially for emerging artists, BIPOC and LGBTQ artists, students, or organizations new to the grant making process. Projects could include workshops, art classes, and or art activities that serve Beaverton residents. Funding requests, $1,000 up to $1,000, not a matching grant, but we encourage the leveraging of other funds. And this has, so this is one of our rolling grants. So these are always open. They'll be open all year round. And we'll review these quarterly. So we're going to be reviewing the ones that we're reviewing today. So March, June, September, December, and then until all grant funds are expended for this fiscal year. And then applicants will be notified of their funding request status by the end of each of these months. So It typically just takes us a little bit of time to turn around once we've made the recommendations for funding to notify folks that they have been awarded a grant. Okay, so the evaluation criteria is the same for Art Lives Here, community grants, large and small grants. And it's based off of a five criteria. And then each of those has a certain amount of points, and there's 100 possible points for the evaluation. So the first one is neighborhood participation and community partnerships, 20 points. Clearly define how the project will provide a creative solution for specific issues in the proposed area. Demonstrate community support and collaboration, and how the project will create strong partnerships in the neighborhood. Creativity, artistic quality, scope, and merit, 20 points. Proposals should be innovative, well-defined, goal-oriented, original, and either visually or experientially compelling, and draw on community resources and talent. Planning, feasibility, and maintenance, 20 points. Proposals should demonstrate how feasible the project is in terms of timeline, budget, and available resources. Explain how the project will be safely produced, installed, maintained, and removed. Economic and community vitality, leverage, 20 points. How well does the project address the objectives of the grant program and catalyze a vision to enhance the vibrancy and economic vitality in a neighborhood? Proposals should include measurement tools for reporting on the success of the project and addressing challenges or opportunities in the neighborhood. And then the last criteria is community benefit and social impact, 20 points. Proposals should demonstrate how the project represents and boasts community identity, heritage, engagement, and a sense of place. So those are the evaluation criteria for Art Lives Here, community grants, large and small grants. So next is our new grant type, which is called open format grants. These are awards up to 1,000 each, 10,000 in funding available. Oh, sorry.
Up to 25.
These are
yeah.
2,500. My apologies. So the amount is a little bit greater. So these are up to 2,500, 10,000 in total funding available. Also have a rolling deadline. And these are for, it's really open for arts and culture practitioners. It's intended to provide support for individuals or organizations that have needs not met by other traditional funding programs. We call it open format because we ask that applicants simply tell us what their most emergent and impactful needs are. Funds could be used to support studio, office, or venue rental, support staff positions, produce a discrete project, hire a consultant to lead a strategic planning effort for an organization, etc. The point is, you, the applicant, tell us what you need and we will consider funding it. Again, not a matching grant, so we don't require matching funds. And then this is a rolling deadline, so same as the small grants. So we'll have reviews in March, June, December, September, and December, or until all the grant funds for this grant type are expended. And the criteria for this grant type looks a little bit different. So I just wanted to go over those. Same structure, 100 points, 5 criteria. So number 1, clear vision for proposed activities, 20 points. Is there a clear articulation of concept, activities, artist involvement, and scope of work or services? Number 2, creativity, artistic quality, scope, and merit, 20 points. Are the proposed activities innovative, well-defined, goal-oriented, original, and either visually or experientially compelling, and draw on community resources and talent? 3, planning and feasibility, 20 points. Do the proposed activities demonstrate feasibility in terms of timeline, budget, and available resources? Public benefit, 20 points. How do the proposed activities benefit, involve, or serve the arts and culture sector and the City of Beaverton residents, including arts and cultural practitioners? Do the proposed activities address the goals of the Beaverton Arts Program? And then the last one, the fifth one, arts and culture resiliency. How do the proposed activities respond to current and or unmet needs that contribute to the resiliency and well-being of arts and cultural practitioners? So those were the 5 criteria that we're using to evaluate the open format grant applications. Oh, sorry. So these are just a few examples of previous grantees. Some of you will be familiar with these because you've been on this committee long enough to know. So this was a Art Lives Here community grant recipient. This was awarded to Adapt. It was for a dance jam. So it was, I believe it was a 2-day event. Wasn't it a 2-day or was it just a 1-day event, Kourtnee?
It was a 1-day event. They did it right at the tail end of kind of the farmer's market to kind of piggyback off of the crowd from that, which was really great. So they did this on a sunny summer afternoon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So Adapt Dance Jam highlighted and celebrated our local dance community by bridging the gap between dancers and Beaverton residents. The dance jam included demos, workshops, dance battles, and other performances, creating a lively, free community event in central Beaverton. I think one thing to note is that Adapt usually does this event in Portland. So they actually brought this event to Beaverton, which was the first time that they held the event here.
Yeah, another reason we felt that they were like exceptional in their application too was that, you know, it was just something that we don't normally have here. Like we don't have a lot of this kind of stuff. A lot of this kind of stuff exists in Portland. Like Laura just said, it had been in Portland before. So just be able to bring this new kind of fun event activity over here was a really great use of funding.
Okay, second one, this was a large grant recipient awarded to the Immigrant Story, a 501c3 organization. This funded the Immigrant Story live storytelling. The award amount was $2,000. The Immigrant Story presented elements of cultural diversity, social equity, and inclusivity through the engagement of arts, culture, and creativity during Beaverton Welcoming Week program. By sharing authentic life stories from and by immigrants and refugees who have made Beaverton their home. Each storyteller was professionally coached to deliver a compelling story. The Immigrant Stories events help foster empathy for immigrants of color through music and storytelling and help to build a healthier, happier, and more connected community. And I will say that the Immigrant Story is one of our most successful grantees, and they have gotten repeat funding. But they every grant that they've been given has been awarded to support something different in their programming. And we are supporting them this year through a sponsorship for 2 live events, one at the Reeser in May and another, I believe it will be at a high school, but I think that they're still working out the second venue. So it's the city is sponsoring those 2 events. One of our small grant recipients, this was Kirby Chic Closet. Oh, hang on a second here. Destry is just joining us. Hi, Destry. So Kirby Chic Closet empowers plus size individuals in the world of fashion. Their award amount was $500. Kirby Chic Closet's fashion show represents the plus size women and men who have been oppressed from traditional shows. The show is the largest plus size fashion show on the West Coast. Their mission is to empower and inspire plus size individuals to be their best selves through addressing how to overcome body obstacles and developing strong body positive advocacy for all. Many of our models have been bullied and shamed about their bodies. Through performance art, the community can see that plus size individuals can be beautiful, confident, and inspiring. So this was one of our small grant awards. And this is just how to apply for our applicants, which I don't think you need to be necessarily schooled about so much, but you will be in the same online application platform that our applicants use to submit their application. So you'll kind of see the nuts and bolts of it, especially as we go through the tutorial. So I'm just going to pause here for a second and ask if anyone has questions. You all are very
Can you
quiet.
send us that deck?
Of course,
Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. Lynn, do you want me to send it right now, or do you want me to just send it after the fact?
Oh, at your convenience.
Okay, I just didn't know if you wanted to look at it tonight as we talk, but I will surely follow up with it. Anybody else have questions?
I'm
Okay.
good.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's a lot of info, so.
A lot of information. And this was the condensed version, so you can look at the full grant guidelines if you want to. And if we go through these and we have questions as we're going through, we can certainly kind of address them as they come up. But I think for now, I'm going to turn it over to Kourtnee so that she can start familiarizing you with Submittable, which is actually like just a really amazing tool. I'm so happy that we started using it. It's made this process so much smoother. And especially in remote work or virtual meeting settings where we can actually evaluate applications in the convenience of our own spaces. So Kourtnee, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to have you take it away.
Okay, so as Laura said, this has been a great tool that we've been using actually not too long after I got here. We've been able to use it for different art applications, whether it's 10 Tiny Dances or all of the public art that's been at the Recer or around town, grants. It's been really great for everything. So we've been using it for the grants for the past couple of years, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. Thank you all for signing up for this ahead of time. It makes our lives easier. Let's see if I can get the thing. Okay, can you guys? Yay, good, cool. Okay, so has anybody had issues with trying to log in yet? I think everyone is assigned now, but just making sure you all have your accounts and everything. Any nays? Everyone good? Okay, so so when you log in to your Submittable, you should be able to see that from Submittable, the application, the form, or whatever you want to call it, it should send you an email when I've assigned applications to you. You should have gotten that. You should probably all be able to see that. Once you click on it, you're going to open it up into this page as long as you are logged in. So right now we're just looking at the small project grants. When we have other grants in here, we've got other lists going on, so we'll be able to review those accordingly. Please also ignore this one for right now. This is the one that came in 2 days ago that we will review at our next meeting. So just to kind of familiarize yourselves with this a little bit, it's changed a bit since the past, but it's still pretty smooth sailing in here. So if you go in here, the easiest thing I found is to just click on the submission name. So right here, you'll see the submission, and here's the name of that submission. This is the person that submitted it. So for example, if we go into Oregon Society of Artists, we click on this, you will be able to see their full application in here. It also tells you how much they've requested in here. It gives the user the ability to upload their budget form. If they had anything else that they wanted to put along with it, they could do other examples. They could attach media samples. They could send us video things. Anything that we would want to see along with their application would be able to be easily viewable for you in here. I've also made sure that any of the files that folks send are general files, whether that's a doc, a PDF, MP3, things like that, that you would generally be able to open on your computer, whether you have a Mac or a PC. So hopefully we don't run into any issues. If we do, I should probably see it before you get it so that I can ask the submitter to resend that particular file. So we'll be going through these today. You'll also see that obvious here is our directions. So you can just, if you get in here and you want to just kind of cruise through everything, you can just click along the top and be able to use that arrow. What you're also going to be using in here is this custom review stage. So you can see right now we're all signed in from here. There hasn't been any activity on here besides me assigning it to you guys. And the submitter will get a little letter of like, thank you, we've received your submission. Thanks, we'll talk to you later. So you'll want to be in this review slide anytime you're reviewing the grants, whether it's the small project grants, open format grants, large project grants, everything will look the same in here for you, and the review section will be the same, which is great. So for me, what I would do, and any of you, if you wanted to look in your application right now, you could click on the complete review and it will give you those same review selection criteria that Laura just mentioned in the grant overview. So it also has the little description down here for you so that you can see it along next to the grant application. If you want to, you can do your scores immediately and you can submit them. You can write additional comments if you'd like. You can also save it as a draft if you need to kind of go back and forth. You might want to do this when we're doing the larger grants, just until you get the ball rolling. You know, there's going to be so many of them that, and sorry, this should not be in there. I'll make sure that gets out. There'll be so many of them that you might need to, you know, save it and go back just to make sure that you're scoring them all accordingly. So that is what you will do when you are in here. When you have done your scoring, you'll be able to go back to your list and your scores should be along this side. So once we have scores in here, I will be able to then sort them by scores. So for our next meeting, say we'll have the large grants and the Art Lives Here grants likely. I'll have you score those ahead of time, and then we'll be able to just meet, look at the scores from across the board for the whole team, and pretty much kind of figure out from there who will be getting funding and who we're not recommending for funding. There's usually kind of like a top tier of here's the 70 to 100 percentile, and then there's some that didn't quite make that cut, and we usually kind of review from down there. So does anybody have any questions on this so far, or have any troubles with getting into their accounts, or any of all of the things? All of the things. There's a lot of stuff in here.
Just to recap, this is Jayne. I've opened up my grants. I read through them, and after reading them, I should be able to go over to the right-hand side and score them based on the information in their grant, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And you should be able to do that from their grant too. One of the things that we've talked about, not necessarily with this full committee, but in the committees before, is that we should not have to, you know, be able to look them up or know them outside of this to be able to understand what they're asking for. Like, there's some organizations that we see around, you know, but not everyone knows them. So they should put enough information in that so that we don't have to, you know, scour the internet to find out what kind of projects they're doing or things like that. So, you know, most of the time folks are pretty good about that. It's just, but like you said, everything should be right there. You should score accordingly to that. Or we can also make comments or recommendations if folks need to kind of further add to any of their sections. We can always discuss.
And we don't save, we can just submit unless we're not finished, correct?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
submit if you're finished. You can save it if you want to go back and save it as a draft. Sometimes for me, like it takes me a couple until I get kind of like in the ball, like in the swing of things. I want to make sure that I'm scoring everyone the same rather than later on scoring it differently. So that's the only time
Got
I
it,
save
got it.
them and go back.
Makes sense.
Sometimes it
Okay.
takes me a couple,
And
which
the
is why I don't score
timeline,
them. And that one should not be on there. I don't know why it still got saved in there. So let me take that out really quick while you guys
the
are.
timeline of proposal.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, that was before during the COVID thing, and I thought it got saved from taking it out, and it did not, it looks like. So I will
Okay,
adjust
great.
that.
While you're doing that, Kourtnee, I think the one thing that I want to say, since we're reviewing the small project grant applications today, the sophistication in the way that these applicants describe their proposed project activity is going to be probably like a little bit all over the place.
Mhm.
But I think what I would encourage you to do is to find the essence of that project and really evaluate it. I mean, the thing that I think is the most important is public benefit. Like, how is this going to serve the benefit of Beaverton residents? That's what our counselors are interested in hearing about. And so I would just kind of have that voice on your shoulder as you're looking at these applications, and just kind of give these applicants a little bit more of a wide berth in terms of the way that they express themselves. Like sometimes, they'll repeat themselves, or they'll be like a little bit too flowery with their language because they don't quite yet have this craft of grant writing down to a fine science. So just be gentle. So I think I just wanted to say that before we actually get started in evaluating. Second thing, I think I want to say that I said this at the beginning, but Destry's joined us, so we don't have to give awards to every applicant. We really don't, and I think you should feel comfortable to be critical, especially when we're reviewing multiple applications. It's okay to look at things with a discerning eye, and it's also okay to not fund up to the level that they've requested. So let's just say, like, because a lot of times people will come in and they will request the full award amount, but then they won't have any information to back up what they're going to use it for. So I would say, like, okay, well, it looks like you do have documented need for this venue rental. We'll grant you the funds. Let's just say we'll pick a kind of random amount. We're going to grant you up to $700 for your venue rental. So you don't have to award that full request. Another thing that I wanted to say, and we didn't do this today because we have such few applications to look at, but when we have the bigger pool of applications, we are going to be preparing kind of a we're just going to call it a cheat sheet, for lack of a better term, which goes over each of those applications and will give you kind of anecdotal information about that applicant. Like, do we have a relationship with them? Have they been granted funds before? If they did, how were they in terms of responsivity? Did they submit their final report? Did they submit, like, did they properly credit the city in their social media posts? Like, all of that stuff will be in this cheat sheet for us to look at, because I do think it's important for us to look at repeat grantees, people who we have funded multiple times, and especially as our community grows. Like, I think it's really important to make sure that there's room at the table for other people. And I know that we'll be looking at one application tonight. So we, as a policy, as sort of an internal policy, I made the decision that, you know, we should really only grant one award per applicant. So for instance, like if we have an applicant and they applied for a small project grant and an open format grant, and it's in that same fiscal year, we can only give one of those awards. And I do that just for equity purposes, for more opportunities for other people to get funded as well. So one of the applications that we're looking at tonight has been a repeat funded project, or I should say an individual who's producing these projects, and who I know has interest in applying for 2 different grants. So that'll be important as we talk about these things, because I think beyond just the scoring, we can see kind of how the scoring stacks everybody up, and we can use that as sort of our first metric. But then I think it's really important to go through and like talk about each of those applications kind of collectively, like, hey, what were the pros? What were some of the things that you're concerned about? You know, is it a slam dunk? Is it like maybe needing further clarification? Like some conversation, because when we have applicants who aren't awarded grants, they typically ask for feedback. And it's really important for them to have this kind of critical feedback for future grant applications. So, and then, you know, I think sometimes we can really, I think we've seen it, Kourtnee would, I'm sure, speak to this too, that we've seen like through conversation, the opinions and scores sway a bit. So we'll have sometimes if we're really kind of, if we're like a split committee, or if we have like one person who's really passionate and wants to like keep this application in consideration, we'll do a rescore after conversation. So it's you know, I think we'll start with that very empirical scoring, but then really get down to brass tacks with the with conversation about each application, if that makes sense.
And as Laura said, we'll have a cheat sheet, but we've also added into the application, especially for the larger grants, a question of to please list any of the grants that they've received in the last 5 years, including the name of the program or event that the city sponsored, and how much they were awarded. Because sometimes we'll also see that maybe they had received funding from our program, but maybe they received it from the neighborhood program and the cultural inclusion program. And just so that we are keeping accessibility across the board, but also so that we know what's getting funded from other programs that we're working with on the staff level as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kourtnee. So we, as the city grows and our funding programs grow, we're trying to figure out like, how do we share notes? Like, how do we, you know, have a discussion across the organization about who we're funding to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts or duplicating funding. So just to give you an example, like after we meet today and we make recommendations for the awardees, we'll then take that, take the list of those awardees and share them with the other funding programs so that they know here's who was awarded grants and for how much, so that when they apply to their funding program, they take that into consideration.
Yeah. Or things like even like, you know, that sometimes we'll get folks applying for events in Welcoming Week because it has an art aspect and it totally makes sense. But we wouldn't want to fund something in Welcoming Week without letting cultural inclusion know who runs the Welcoming Week programs. Like we would want them to know if we were going to think about funding something. So just making sure that we're chatting across the board.
And I'm just gonna give a like shameless plug to Jayne for that. She's involved in this cool pop-up event that's this weekend. And that event would have been like a perfect small project grant application. So I just wanted to say that, like, if you're thinking about like, well, what type of applications are we, you know, would be great. Like that one would have been such an outstanding grant application.
Thank you for the
So-
plug. I forgot to mention that earlier.
So for the
Yeah,
next
I know.
one,
I'm gonna try to come one of the days. I promised myself that
Oh,
I would
excellent.
do some gardening, but I have to have some fun too. So
And the farmer's market is right there, and the restaurant row is, we're really situated
Yeah.
well.
yeah.
So thank you.
and it
So
would, yeah. Mhm.
I think does anybody have questions at this point? Or do you want to just roll into, we're gonna go over each of these applications one by one, and then I'm gonna ask you if you all feel comfortable doing your scores in Submittable, like can you log into Submittable on your computer and do the scoring in real time while we're meeting?
I'm good with
Yeah,
that.
I'm logged in, so
Okay,
Okay,
I'm gonna
Okay.
pull up my screen again real quick. And I did fix that question on there. I think it was attached to the wrong form. So hopefully it all looks right on your things now. If not, just skip the timeline one down at the bottom because it was from the old form and it's just, I don't know if it's not reformatting or what the issue is, but if you see it in there still, if you see it, say it.
I'm refreshing to see, because it was still in there for mine.
Okay, cool. I did fix it, but it might take a bit. So
and I
Yep,
think-
gone now.
cool, perfect. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Anybody on the meeting that doesn't have access to Submittable, like can't log in right now? Seems like everybody's good to go.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I had it a minute ago and I did something, so. just give me-
Okay. Okay, so if for some reason you can't log in,
Mhm.
Kourtnee sent the scoring spreadsheets. So you should be able to pull those up and use those to score, and we can just do it manually. Like I'll just ask you for your scores.
Mhm.
That's worst case scenario, but we'll give you some time to see if you can
Mhm.
get back into the matrix. Okay, so Kourtnee.
Mhm.
We're just gonna, this is the first application we're gonna look at.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the Oregon Society of Artists. I have not seen an application from them before, so just putting it out there that in my 9 years here, we have not funded them that I know of. So that's always good to see new ones.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is really
Especially
cool.
when somebody repeats.
So Nancy Truskowski is the
Mhm.
executive director. It
Mhm.
is a nonprofit.
Mhm.
It's for a veterans art program at the Salvation Army, Army Veterans and Family Center here in Beaverton. And it says that it demonstrates cultural diversity, social equity, and inclusiveness, and helping City of Beaverton become increasingly welcoming, inclusive, representative, and responsive to historically underrepresented and underserved communities, particularly communities of color, immigrants, refugees, and LGBTQ+. Contributes to economic vitality, contributes to neighborhood revitalization or beautification, and promotes our city as a place that is welcoming, vibrant, responsible, friendly, safe. So basically, these are the criteria, and they kind of like go, the goals, and they check which ones apply to them.
Mhm.
Inspires or accomplishes creativity and innovation, creates public spaces that promote health, happiness, and well-being. Okay, so this is a bit more of a narrative. We are seeking funding to help us to expand our free veterans art classes and the annual exhibit of their work.
Mhm.
A vital part of our curriculum since 2017, the VETS program encompasses instruction at all levels from beginner to advanced and includes such mediums as sketching, watercolor, oil, acrylics, and this month, fabric art. With the support of grant funding, OSA provides the instructor, the facility, and all supplies. In November, we host an annual Veterans Showcase art exhibit at OSA's gallery. All veterans are invited to exhibit at no charge. OSA hosts the opening night's reception. Since its inception, the program has been operated from our center in Southwest Portland. Soon, we hope to begin classes for 15 to 20 vets transitioning from homelessness, as well as their family members who live at the Salvation Army Veterans and Family Center in Beaverton. This is a transitional housing center that provides a therapeutic environment for up to 50 veterans and their families. We will conduct art instruction for those residing in this facility and invite other vets living in the Beaverton area to attend. OSA will provide the instructor and all supplies. The grant would help underwrite this program expansion. How will your proposed activities support arts and culture in Beaverton? Classes are held for both the vets and their families at no charge. The Beaverton facility will host its own exhibition in November at the same time that our other vets program will show in our downtown gallery. While classes are not available for the public at large, the November exhibition will be open to everyone. We will provide information about the exhibit to both Portland and Beaverton media, because simply being able to show their work goes a long way in helping the vets heal from their emotional wounds. Moreover, you will see some very good art there. What cultures and communities will be served by the proposed activity? The program is open to all U.S. military vets, regardless of their sex, creed, or culture. All family members residing at the Salvation Army Veterans and Family Center will be invited to participate. Veterans not living in the center are also invited to participate. How will you promote your activity to these communities, and how will they benefit? As this particular program will be housed in the Veterans and Family Center, we will rely on the Salvation Army to market the program to their residents. We will provide promotional flyers to post on their walls and any other collateral they feel would be effective. To attract vets living in the area, we will work with Washington County Veterans Services, Portland Veterans Administration, and our own growing mailing list of veterans to promote this new location. Other benefits to the arts community or the community as a whole. Both the arts community and the general population are made better because of the ancillary benefits this program creates for the vets and their families. Many of the participants will discover talents and perspective they didn't know they had, and many of them will continue to develop these abilities throughout their lives. The creation of art is therapeutic. Emotional pain, aggression, and other negative responses to their military experience goes onto the canvas, into the sculpture, and onto the drawing. Moreover, they are sharing these experiences with other veterans and family members, the only other individuals who truly understand. OSA has created a warm and welcoming environment for veterans who together have created a community of support and friendship. While this particular program is slated to be housed in the Veterans and Family Center, vets not living here will be invited to participate. It is conveniently located with easy access for those not able to travel to OSA's center downtown. Any groups or individuals with whom you plan to collaborate. OSA is collaborating with Salvation Army to provide the space and to attract students to the class. As you evaluate this program for funding, we hope that you will take the following into consideration. While the Salvation Army is in itself a church, there is no religious component nor required religious adherence involved with this art program. The Salvation Army receives federal, state, and city funding for their myriad of programs and activities throughout the U.S. They would not qualify for this funding if religious exposure were required to participate. All right, please read the attached COVID guidelines. How will you address these restrictions for your project? We, of course, will adhere to 100% of pertinent guidelines. At OSA, all students are required to be vaccinated and wear masks while in class. We space students such that they are six feet radius distance between them and another student. We have hand sanitizer in the room and clean tables after class. We will follow similar guidelines for classes at Veterans and Family Center. Since the November exhibit will be open to the public, we will require masks and proof of vaccination upon entry to the gallery. We will revisit city, state, and federal guidelines as we get closer to the date and make certain that we are in total compliance. So they're requesting $1,000. Describe your need or opportunity. Since 2017, we have been offering art classes to local veterans in the OSA building and have demonstrated the success of the program by its growth. We've had requests to expand the program to other areas of the Portland metro area to reach vets who, for whatever reason, are unable to come into town. And looking for locations in Washington County, this opportunity presented itself at the Veterans and Family Center. By offering art classes here, we meet all our purposes: teaching art to vets in support of their mental well-being, having a location that is easily accessible, and expanding our veterans art program. A significant byproduct is being able to include an entire family living in the center, as families are a critical support system for each veteran. Need for small grant funds. What will the requested funds be used for? It will be applied to remuneration for the instructor and purchase of art supplies. There's no charge for our veteran and family students. They have not received any grants from the city. Let's just see here.
I'm also pulling up, yeah, I'm pulling up their
You are,
budget.
okay, okay, great. Our 2022 budget for the entire veterans program is $26,888. Of this, $8,308 is earmarked for our Beaverton program. Although we are partnering with the Salvation Army in order to reach out to more vets, the Army has no direct fiscal stake in this effort. We rely solely on foundation income to support our veterans programs. This grant would be applied directly to this Beaverton class. The $1,000, 12% would be extremely helpful to a small organization such as ours. Demographic data. This is optional, so they only are asked to share this if they'd wish. The makeup of the OSA board, staff, instructors, contributing artists, and students comprise a diverse population in terms of age, ethnicity, gender identification, and income. They found out about us through Oregon Grants Online. Awesome. That's good to hear. And I think that that's it. So does everybody feel comfortable scoring at this point based on the criteria?
Yes, did Kourtnee put the budget up?
Yes, let me pull it up one more time.
Okay, it went really quickly.
We talk
I'm
very
really-
quickly
I'm
too,
really-
so
I'm really slow.
it's a lot to go over in a few minutes, yeah. So this is where their expenses are, and this is what their income would be, whether it's cash, non-cash donations. This is also where they would put any of their, for any of the other grant applications too, that this is where they would put expected grants or anything like that.
So they've done their own fundraising also to kind of match it.
Mhm.
Looks like, okay, cool.
Which we suggest for most or for.
Yeah, I also see that they have on their website, they have paid classes that they offer.
Mm.
There's lots. I put in the chat, I put a link to their classes
Mm, okay,
if you guys
thank you.
wanted to look at that,
On
because
exact page right now.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I was looking at.
it sounds like a very cool project. We haven't had them reach out to us to do something like this. I remember we worked with the library once to do, they had done a senior art class. So all of the seniors in that class had gotten to do artworks, and we went over and helped hang the art and everything to do a show for them, and it went over really well. So it just sounds like a cool project. But
I have two questions. One, should we be scoring it right now or just able to score it right now? Because I'd rather read all of them and then decide, like we talked about.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then my other question is
Yeah.
should we at all, I've worked in my background is in nonprofits, so I've worked for good nonprofits and bad nonprofits, and whether or not even like the relevancy of this budget or how accurate it is, should in general, would it be good practice or kind of irrelevant to like pull up how they are as an organization versus like their overhead charges and what's actually going, to their mission statement? Or is that kind of a bigger picture than just the grant application?
Yeah, I think we need to be evaluating this strictly based on what they submit in their grant application.
Okay.
Unless you have direct experience like that you have in working with this particular grantee or applicant, that
Right.
that
That they've
would
been like previous applicants or grantees that hadn't followed through, that would
Correct.
be okay.
yeah. Or like if you were, let's just say you worked for a foundation or you worked as a grant maker and another organization that you had, we'll just, use a hypothetical, like they had not submitted their final report. That is, and you knew about it, it is okay to say that if you had if you have direct experience. What is not okay is to actually independently do research and kind of dig up stuff
Okay.
independent of their application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
I don't,
but-
something happened to my submittable and they're not there anymore. It says I have nothing to look at, so I don't know what happened.
Give me a second to go back in. I'm gonna stop sharing it for a second. And while we're still chatting, I'll make sure,
Okay, thanks.
because I did fix that form in there, but I reassigned everything to everyone. So I'm not sure. if
Lynn,
maybe
did
refresh.
can you work on that, Kourtnee?
Mhm.
Lynn, did you have a comment or question?
Oh, I was just gonna clarifying question. Since their website is in the application, it's okay to look at their website, right?
It is.
Yeah, I figured
Yeah.
since it's there, but I thought I'd just clarify.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good question to ask. Yeah.
And it's Jayne again. I just wanted to clarify, we can give more than one a grant, right? We just don't
No.
have only $1,000.
We have these awards are up to 1,000, so we
Mhm.
cannot award more than 1,000.
Mhm.
I see. Okay.
Right, but but 1,000 per, and we could potentially say yes to all three or yes to one or whatever, whatever. Okay,
Yeah, we've also partially funded things before and able to at least partially fund multiple when we haven't had the funding to do all of them. So, and
Got it.
April, I think I fixed yours.
Yep, it's back now. Thank you.
Okay. I reassigned everyone and you were the only one that wasn't in that group one yet because I had just gotten it, I think is what happened.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so everybody is in submittable right now. So I think we're gonna do is go through all the applications and then I'm gonna have you score them, if that seems agreeable to everyone. It was a good suggestion. Thanks, Destry.
Okay, I'm gonna share again real quick then.
Hey, Kourtnee, could I ask you to could I ask you to read the narrative on this next application? Okay,
So do you want me to share and read, right?
yes, please.
Okay, cool. Are your eyes getting a little funky?
Oh, my voice is getting a little scratchy. I'm like, I just
Yeah.
think it's different. I'll bring it home, but
Oh, good.
thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so the next one we're gonna look at is John Nguyen. And I do know from the past that he has gotten grant funded before, but it was a few years ago. So it's been a while. So he has his website up there if we all want to creep on that, because it's public knowledge. It's right there for us. Okay, the proposed project title, Greater Portland Flute Society LGBTQ Recital. So as Laura said earlier, here is where they would check all of the goals that it suits. So it's nurturing community collaboration, contributing to economic vitality, et cetera, for the goals that we have on our application. I'm going to skip down to the provide information on the project. So the Greater Portland Flute Society Flute Fair is the Oregon flute community's flagship event that includes an internationally celebrated guest artist recital on Friday night, followed by a Saturday full of workshops by local professionals, masterclasses, competitions, a seminar by our guest artist, and of course, flutes, music, and gear for sale. The GPFS Flute Fair is a chance for members all across the state to spend a weekend learning, networking, and enjoying all things flute. This year, the Flute Fair, that is very hard to say, the Flute Fair will be held online via Zoom on April 9th, 2022 to abide by COVID-19 safety protocols. There is a lack of LGBTQ representation in many flute events, but particularly in the GPFS's event schedule. At the national level, the National Flute Convention has hosted an LGBTQ flutist panel, workshop, and concert, which promoted diversity and inclusion for flutists or flautists, I guess, who may be struggling for a safe space. The LGBTQ panel at the NFA convention made a significant difference for me in feeling welcome and included, and I want to be able to bring this opportunity to local young flutists in Oregon. As a result, I have partnered with flutist Terry Sundberg to host our own LGBTQ workshop in concert during the GPFS Flute Fair to reach other young LGBTQ artists. And how will it support arts and culture in Beaverton? The GPFS Flute Fair has historically served primarily Beaverton residents, including instrumentalists who do not play the flute, as the event has previously been hosted at Aloha High School. The flute Yay! The Flute Fair, in turn brings together music enthusiasts and enriches the community with events, activities, workshops, and concerts. In particular, the LGBTQ workshop and concert will demonstrate how Beaverton advocates for sexual minorities in the arts, and will show how Beaverton is consistently welcoming, inclusive, representative, and responsive to underserved communities. This will in turn help LGBTQ youth artists feel welcome in Beaverton and also uplift minority artists. What cultures and communities will be served? The COVID-19 pandemic has devastated a disproportionate amount of sexual minorities in Beaverton. I see this adversity as an opportunity to advocate for my communities, and I want to help champion more awareness for LGBTQ struggles in Beaverton. I hope to inspire the community to collaborate and support one another, especially in this time of need. At large, the Flute Fair will serve the classical music audience in Beaverton. How will you promote it? It is advertised largely to their strong membership base through their monthly newsletters, website, and group emails. Many flute teachers who are members of the GPFS often also will relay the information to their non-member students, who will in turn register for the event and attend. As a result, there is a guaranteed strong attendance to the event. The activity schedule will feature the LGBTQ concert and workshop, which will guide much of the virtual traffic to the event to those interested. Additionally, Terry Sundberg and I will be posting this event to our social media pages, including Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. This will allow additional visitors to come and register for the event, especially since it's held virtually and can attract an international audience as well. Ultimately, I hope that LGBTQ minority artists will benefit from this event. Terry Sundberg and I, in addition to the panel, have submitted a proposal which has been accepted to perform on a featured event. This will increase the diversity and visibility of the LGBTQ flute community and help bring awareness to those who did not know how diverse the community is. Whew, okay, other benefits to the community. According to Plumeria Counseling, gay and lesbian adolescents report attempted suicide rates at rates approximately twice that of their heterosexual counterparts. LGBTQ students also face additional pressures in school as a result of their membership in a stigmatized minority. 84% report having been verbally harassed in school, 39% report having been physically harassed in school, 64% feel unsafe in their school environment, and nearly 1/3 of LGBT students drop out of school as a result of harassment. Although LGBTQ individuals' feelings of confusion may decrease during coming out, feelings of alienation and social difference may increase as individuals experience detachment from heterosexual support systems in order to seek support from an LGBTQ subculture. Creating a community of support within the flute community would assist LGBTQ youth to accept themselves and foster a sense of welcomeness. Any groups that you plan to collaborate with. Terry Sundberg is the key artist I will collaborate with. We have maintained close contact with this project idea since August 2021. Additionally, I have been in touch with the National Flute Association, the world's largest network of flutists, and their Diversity Inclusion Committee for assistance preparing for the event, especially because they have hosted various similar events. This project idea was accepted by the NFA's Young Artist Mentorship Program, which in collaboration with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee mentors flutists of traditionally marginalized communities and minorities. I am currently working with Dr. Jayne Hassan, Hassan to put the finalized touches on the preparation of this recital. Read the attached COVID guidelines. How will you address this? The 2022 GPFS Flute Fair performances and workshops will again be online in order to comply with COVID guidelines. However, in order to prepare for the LGBTQ affinity workshop and performance, Terry and I will conduct multiple consulting sessions and meetings. We will meet as much as possible virtually via Zoom. In the event that an in-person meeting would occur, we will get COVID tested while maintaining 6 feet of distance and wear our face coverings for the entirety of the meeting. If the weather is cooperative in March or April, we can meet outside while still maintaining social distance. As we are rehearsing, we will only remove our masks when we are physically playing, perform in a large enough hall that is equipped with proper air ventilation, or practice outside, weather permitting, be socially distanced, and get tested for COVID. They are requesting $1,000. This grant will cover artist fees for Terry to compensate for her time working on this project. Additionally, we'll use a portion of this grant to cover fees for an accompanist, any PPE that may need to be purchased to ensure safety for the artist, and if any money remains, advertisements on social media and in the community. What will the requested funds be used for? This grant will cover artist fees for Terry Sundberg to compensate for her time working on this project. Additionally, we will use a portion of this grant to cover fees for an accompanist, any PPE, and if anything is left, advertisements. Okay, I'm going to pull up the budget real quick.
Can you go a little bit slower, Court?
Mhm.
Okay.
So it looks like they have non-cash as well. And here is their income of what they already have.
Oh, they got a rack grant.
Mm-hmm. Which is very cool.
Yeah.
It really doesn't give us any idea of how many people will be attending this, right? There, or how to.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
hard.
It's hard to say with a virtual event.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or like how many people, like what amount of people are, you know, LGBTQ identifying flautists and beaver. Like, I guess I wonder, how is this like 3 people, you know, or it does seem really important, but very niche. And I don't seem, and then it also says that he has another grant, which then he says he hasn't submitted the paperwork for because he doesn't know where to submit it further down.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the previous grants that are on here?
I know about his previous grant. I don't remember that he didn't turn one in. So if he didn't, then that was a while ago, but it might have been before we were doing a lot of the agreements and things like that too. So it is online, and I can make sure that I get it to him now that we know that he hasn't done it either.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with this applicant from my previous time.
Yeah, I just remember that before, when he had gotten a grant, it was to help cover accompanist fees for some kind of concert, but I'd have to look back. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to close out the budget really quick so we can finish reading this. Okay, so explain how receiving this award will help bridge the gap. The pandemic has devastated a disproportionate amount of ethnic and sexual minorities, especially Asian and LGBTQ. This adversity presents an opportunity to advocate for these communities, and I will do this by sharing my own personal experience through the repertoire of LGBTQ composers featured in a concert. The classical music field is very competitive, and in order for me to successfully achieve this project, I will need private and professional guidance from a specialist in my field that also identifies as LGBTQ and is connected with other musicians and composers who identify as minorities. It is rare for top musicians to be openly gay and hold prominent positions, as musicians still face frequent discrimination. The opportunity to be guided and mentored by a minority teacher such as Terry will allow me to further transition into a mature, informed musician who can continue spreading the work and positive message of LGBTQ and Asian American musicians. So he did mark that he is Asian or Asian American, and he is Vietnamese. Heard about it from Google, yes, but I have not submitted my formal report, like you had just mentioned. It might have been before we had some of that paperwork, but I would think that he can either get it online or I can make sure that we're looping back in with him. As I said, it's been a couple of years since he has gotten the grant funding. It's been a while, but.
I'm looking at, I'm just saying that one of the work samples that's that he submitted. It's pretty great. Seems very like professionally prepared. It was funded, like the preparation of the website was supported by Oregon Arts and RAC, which is an endorsement, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, that if they were to receive funding.
I've been on a RAC grant panel before, and there are a lot of applicants, to say the least.
Okay, let's just see here.
I would think that too, not just flautists, but other wind ensemble folks or any of that, anybody enjoying symphony would probably go to something like this too. So not just in the flautist realm.
It looks like they did
Yeah.
this virtual event in August. I'm just gonna throw this out there for everyone to chew on, that if attendance or visibility reach was a concern, I think we could ask a follow-up of how many attendees were at your August event, and make the determination when we meet again if that is, if you all feel like that's necessary.
I guess I wonder, since we don't have that, but is this grant going to specific people attending the event or putting the event on in general? I guess that's because when I look at his website and stuff, it seems like he is an instructor, but then he's also, you go to contact him and it says he's not currently teaching flute lessons. So I'm curious as to, is this going to participants or the event itself?
It says that the grant
funding.
will cover artist fees for Terry Sundberg to compensate for her time.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a few things. So over sort of overarching, I really think something like this being unusual and so forth is really valuable, especially, some of the things that he addressed with statistics around youth and so forth. But the biggest impact to me is visibility. I did see here two things that make me curious. A lot of cost around flying from Portland to Dallas Fort Worth and Dallas Fort Worth to Portland. I'm not sure what that's about. So that's like, what's that? I thought it was going to take place here. It's confusing to me.
Yeah, apartment accommodations in Texas.
Yeah, what's that? I don't understand that. DFW is the Dallas Fort Worth airport, but
Yeah.
So that there's that, which has me curious because it's not like that's not bringing someone here. That's sending someone from here. So that doesn't make sense to me. So I'd
Yeah,
ask for clarification on
yeah.
that. And also, we have both rates for 2 different professors, plus I'm not sure, one of them, I'm not sure what the other person's role is. So, but that's 3 artists, I guess. So in one area, it says 3 artists at $25 per hour, and that has the breakdown of project staff, which, you know, I'm just confused about how that adds up.
Yeah, I noticed that about the transportation too. I thought that was interesting. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 3 hours at $25 an hour, that was an example on the application.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
My
It
guess,
does say EG. Okay, got it.
I mean, my guess is that these are the folks that are involved in putting this together.
Yeah.
This is like, I mean, this is for their time,
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
but
I get that now. I was
and I-
misreading it.
it's weird with the apartment accommodations.
Yeah, I don't get that. That seems curious. I'd like to understand that. And then
If it was
The-
hotel fees here, that would be different, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, really, at the root of it, it sounds like, from what I gathered here, that the event is actually the performance event is happening in Texas. And really the benefit to Beaverton is that it's supporting this one Beaverton resident in participation at that event, and anyone who wants to attend it virtually. That seems like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I'm just gonna say it. Everything about this is completely great to me, with the one exception of, I don't see how it benefits Beaverton, especially since we're getting a lot of sort of virtual event fatigue.
Yeah.
And I would love to fund this if it was happening here, but if this is sending the artist elsewhere to do it, I might pause and look at other things before I made a decision to say yes to it.
yeah.
But I love it. I love that it's, flautists. I love that it is the LGBTQ. I think that it's really, really important to have a presence. But the reach, I think the reach is a real question. How many people is this going to, attract? Because I do think it would be very interesting to people who are interested in classical music, whether play them or not. So I see a lot of value in it. I just don't see how it's a benefit to Portland or to Beaverton in a larger way.
Yeah. As a French horn player, I would still go to an event like this if it was actually classical music, because we don't get very much classical music here or anywhere.
Yes, I mean, I would
As
definitely.
a non-flautist.
Yes, yeah, me too. As a non-flautist and a musician of many other kinds, I would go, but it's not here. So that's the part that seems to have not been clear until you look at the budget.
Yeah, which is very difficult because it doesn't really say, like you said, it doesn't really say that it's not in Beaverton until you look at that and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
It
was funny because that was the
assumed
question.
It was in Beaverton the whole time.
That was the question that I had the whole time. It's like, what's the venue? Where's the venue?
Where is it? Yeah.
Virtual, but like, where's it happening? And that's a bit buried. It's just, it's a little bit too bad that there's not enough musicians that could coalesce here locally. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be all Beaverton musicians, but like in the Portland metro area, at the very least, like, I don't know, it just would seem.
Or if there was something specific group of people that were meeting on a regular
Mhm.
basis that
Mhm.
wanted to see it, as far as the scope of how many people in Beaverton really want to log on to see this.
Yeah.
Is there a
Mhm.
specific community that's like hoping for this, or are you hoping for a community to be able to find hope from this?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
hard thing too is that, and I was talking about this just at the grants last year, we were still even looking at this, like with what you've mentioned with Zoom fatigue and everything like that, with free concerts all over the place, are people going to go to something like this, which is a small local gathering kind of one, or are they going to watch bigger concert ones that they can also get for free online, as opposed to something that's like at a much smaller scale? So it's really hard to, like, when you have to think about it that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this was a live event,
Mhm.
I think that would, and it was in Beaverton or in the Portland area,
Mhm.
totally makes sense.
Mhm.
Even if it was a relatively small audience,
Mhm.
but it appears that, I mean, because it says this will, the Flute Fair will serve the classical music audience in Beaverton, but it doesn't say, I mean, I would ask him, is this in Texas or is this here? If it's in Texas, then, that's quite different than it being a live event here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it not being a live event and being a virtual event.
Yeah.
That I think, I don't think that makes it no, but I think it makes me want to look at other options.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that the timeline for this is such that I don't think it's in April, if I remember right, April 9th. I don't think
Yeah.
that we,
It does say right there, this year the
Yeah.
Flute Fair will be held via Zoom
Mhm.
April 9th.
Mhm.
yeah. I'm just gonna throw this in there as an option. I mean, it seems like this is almost a better fit for the open format grant, because if the request is really like, we want to send this artist to this national conference, that's sort of a niche thing. It's an unmet need, like that. It
Mhm.
might make more sense to give an award from the open format grants than small projects where it really is a bit more confined, I think, in terms of how to demonstrate public benefit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just that we could do that. That's what I wanted to say, is that if we wanted to award him a grant from, or them, a grant from the open format, even though it's not the grant program that he applied for, that's totally on the table. We can.
Mhm.
So I'll just throw that out there. I think we should move on to the last application.
Can I just say something before we move on?
Sure.
You said it's okay to look at the website, right?
Yep.
It was linked. So it appears that the person who applied for the grant is studying in Texas under Terry Sundberg. So is what it says on his website.
Got it.
But he's from Beaverton.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that on his about page. That's what it said.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really do feel like the open format might be a better fit.
Mhm.
So I will just enter that for your consideration.
Speaking of a better fit for a grant application, we
Yes.
have the one that Laura was talking about.
Yeah. So the third one that we're reviewing today is by Janthe. I'm not remembering how to say Janthe's last name.
It's Jayne Raman.
Raman. Okay. And she has received numerous grants over the years. She's always been a responsive grantee from my experience. Maybe overly responsive.
Yeah, I will reserve any other comments that are not non-staff level.
Yes. No, she did what she was asked to do.
Yes.
I guess is the point. I did have a conversation with her. So when she submitted this grant, it was fairly early on. And I think that she was hoping that we could do in-person performances, and then it was looking like we weren't able to, and now we are doing that again. And so in the midst of that, she wanted to apply for the open format grant for another project that she is wanting to do, which is a book project. I said, well, you know, based on what I know about your project, it seems like the open format would be much more appropriate, but we can't give you more than one grant per year. So I think you need to make the decision about which one you want to apply for, because you can't get both. But she also couldn't take back her application, and she hasn't submitted her application for the open format grant. So this is all just background information for you as we go through this application.
And also, it looks like when she did apply, it was back before we had changed the program a little bit too, because this was when we were going to be giving out 1,500 not too long before you got here, Laura. So we also had changed the amount after that. So it does say 1,500, and we know that we're giving out $1,000 for these grants. That was before we redrafted and changed it back, just as an FYI for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I reading, Laura? You reading?
I'll read. You can have a break.
Okay, phew, thank you. I need my water.
So Janthe Ramen Dance Company is the organization applying. There is a website listed. The proposed project title is Arangam, Emerging from the Pandemic. It meets the following criteria: demonstrates cultural diversity, social equity and inclusiveness, nurtures community collaboration, encourages partnership among artists and creative industries, inspires or accomplishes creativity and innovation, nurtures and honors community identity and heritage, creates public spaces that promote health, happiness, and well-being. Arangam means the stage and is a classical dance project focusing on the theme of the artist overcoming insurmountable challenges due to the pandemic. Artists were responding to the shifting professional landscape around them by planning ways to innovate and move their careers online, and even shift the direction of their artistic genre to accommodate the shift in paradigm due to the pandemic. Arangam will showcase in dance language using music and hand gestures the stories of the dancers and allied artists overcoming challenges successfully. Arangam will be presented at the Beaverton Library during March 2022. The pandemic and its impact will affect the presentation, but our hope is to present the event successfully. The project helps local Beaverton artists to have a voice and to thrive artistically by supporting a Beaverton-based teacher, performer, choreographer, and local talented young dancers who are Beaverton residents to pursue art and to present it locally. Audience members have access to such high artistic programming for free to attend and get a live perception and experience of Indian classical dance and music and celebrate the diversity in our community. I generally present my full-length evening works and major productions in downtown Portland with funding support. My cast of dancers and musicians include professional performers as well as select students of my dance school in varying roles. The goal of presenting this production is to present such a high-quality event free for my hometown Beaverton residents. This project will showcase a Beaverton-based choreographer and dancers of my dance school who are residents of Beaverton. Each presentation I have completed with a Beaverton Arts Commission grant has been an innovative, challenging production with universal appeal. Although the Indian immigrant artists and choreographer are participants, all local residents in Beaverton can enjoy the art form and relate to the theme of the dance. This project brings people together by providing opportunities for all people to experience and explore art, no matter what their backgrounds are, thus build awareness of the arts and culture that exists locally. This project also is a way for people to celebrate cultural diversity through art. The target audience are local Beaverton residents interested in world music and dance, and the local Indian immigrant community interested in attending such concerts. My earlier concerts in Beaverton were very successful projects with almost full house attendance at the Beaverton City Library Auditorium, which is the two-day event, Elsie Stir Center, the First United Church on Murray Boulevard. The mayor of Beaverton has attended many of the events. I'm going to assume that that's the former mayor. and adjacent areas of Washington County who attended the events. We're glad to have seen such concerts. I have presented multiple outreach events and performances in Washington County, particularly in Beaverton, since 1990. The project supports and promotes artistic excellence, building intercultural and cross-cultural collaborations within and around many artistic disciplines such as dance, music, and theater arts. Although this is not a creative collaboration, access to the audience will be done via information to ACMA, Arts and Communications Magnet Academy, where I have served as a visiting guest artist, teaching Indian dance and other local dance schools to encourage audience reach. The related activities are public events. We will follow all guidelines and protocols as set by the county and state of Oregon during the project timeline. We are also planning on hybrid presentation where we hope to live stream the event via our Facebook to reach those who will not be able to attend, and or in case of limited audience participation as we recover from the pandemic. So the grant amount requested was $1,500, but grant awards for this are up to $1,000. As we slowly overcome the pandemic, the cancellation of concerts and impact on students' dropout and loss of income has been challenging for all artists, especially for individual artists whose income is from the arts. This funding will be critical in supporting creativity and presentation as we open after the pandemic. The funds will be used for artist fee, costumes, and rehearsal space rent. It says that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would like to point out that she said that she hasn't gotten any in the last few years. And they've definitely have, and I'm like, I know that she's applied under different schools and organizations, so maybe it's the specific one, but she has received funding.
Yeah.
So that should have been noted. I mean, we know that it's happened, so.
Yeah. Do we want to open up any of the work samples or the budget?
Yeah, I can open up the budget, or let's do that. So this would be the expenses of what they have.
It's interesting that
Go ahead.
very little of the expenses go to promoting the event, and most of it goes to staff and personnel.
Mm-hmm.
I went to her website just to see, because it says
Mhm.
March 2022. So I'm like,
Mhm.
that's really quick. That's right now. So is it going to be in person or virtual, or
Mhm.
what is the status of that? And her website for the upcoming events, it hasn't been updated since 2019.
Mhm.
Which feels like you maybe shouldn't have even linked it then, because
Mhm.
is it happening? Is it not happening? And I then just went to the Beaverton library, since it said that would be, and onto their events calendar. And I don't see it anywhere as something that's happening or was canceled. So I
Mhm.
guess if this was submitted last October, my question would be, what's the status of it? Because if this is a performance, you should be practicing who's involved, what is that, and what is that's
Yeah,
kind of
it should be promoted already. Should be
Yeah.
everywhere.
it
If
should
it's supposed to
have
be
a
in,
calendar page. It should be on the library calendar. If she doesn't update her website, okay, Beaverton Library, and it's not anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair to her, like, I think that the goalpost moved a little bit just in terms of when she applied, and when I think that she could get a response, and we were like trying to get the grant guidelines going, and so it's not entirely fair to say like I mean, it may have been a planned event that then she couldn't do because she couldn't get the grant. She didn't know she was going to get the grant funding. So I would say that, like, I mean, the likelihood that she could do it in the future is high, and we just don't have a date for that. But there's a lot of unknowns.
And you also said if she can only be awarded one grant per year, and there's something else that she's working on.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
able to take, if you had submitted a grant and then something like this situation happens, are you able to unsubmit it, or would that be like a separate reach out process? Or if she had wanted to change her mind, what would?
If it was the same project and we were like something like John's that we just looked at and we're like, oh, this would make so much more sense to be applied for the open format grants, we could
Right.
likely move that application into the open format grants because so many of the questions are similar. Or we could at least condense it, add it to his letter, and then have him refill it out. But for Jayne, the second project that she wants to apply for is so completely different that she
Right.
would need to reapply for the other one because it's a completely separate project. It's something for a book, I think, that she's working on. It's completely like not in tandem with this at all. So we wouldn't be able to have her just move this. So
Yeah.
It almost seems like this is not relevant because what we need to know is, does she still want it?
and
Oh,
we've
I think she does. I think she wants to have both projects.
yeah.
And when I told her that she could only have one, it was it kind of fell on deaf ears. Like it was,
Yeah.
Oh,
it was not something that she wanted to hear.
okay.
So, yeah.
Well, as far as we can see, just from I don't know who this is, but
Mhm.
I don't have any background on her
Mhm.
firsthand. It seems like this was something that she proposed at a point where she thought she could do something in March. It's not going to happen in March. It's not on the calendars in March. It's not on our website. Our website hasn't been updated for 3 years. It seems like a simple,
Mhm.
not really a relevant application anymore.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anybody else have comments or questions? Yeah, it is a little bit strange that her website is so, like, there wouldn't be just like a placeholder, like events coming soon or something.
I mean,
Especially,
would it be appropriate to say, hey, we noticed the one you submitted, it said March, we know that's not gonna happen, like to ask her to resubmit it if she's still interested in it, since the,
Yeah.
timeline is
Possible.
up.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
possible. It means that we won't be able to review her application until we next review our grants.
Mhm.
So, it just pushes her date out a little bit, but I think she really needs to make the decision which project she
Mhm.
wants to apply for.
Yeah. Yeah, or the thing is, if she did push it out past the fiscal year and she did apply for the open format grant, she could potentially, if we liked both project ideas, get an open format grant for this fiscal year that we are currently in. And one for the next year, but then she wouldn't be eligible until, 2 grant cycles from now. So there's a lot of things to think about from her end as well. If she does reapply for this and she also wants to apply for the open format, then she's done 3 of them and she might not necessarily get any of them. So,
Well, the other option, honestly, is if we got back to her and said, why don't you package this into one proposal?
mhm,
And that's also an option.
mhm,
I mean, I do like the idea of this, that she's submitted. And, if we had reviewed it earlier, I think it might have been really great. Because I see some really, exciting, I would go see it, right? And I could see other people, and I think it's really good for
Yeah.
the
Me too.
community and that sort of thing.
I agree. I think things like this are important, especially when, from the cultural aspect. But it just seems like it's just not really even relevant, just due to dates and so forth. So
I think for this one, I think what might be best is to just ask her to resubmit.
Yeah.
and make the choice of which project she wants to have support for. Does she want to do the book, or does
Yeah.
she want to do the performance? In which case, go ahead and resubmit, and we'll review and have an answer to you by, I mean, we'll have the answer by the end of May.
Mhm.
That's kind of, those are the options. And I guess we could, because we sort of do owe her one in some capacity, because there was this weird sort of like dead zone of grants opportunity, that maybe we could reply to her sooner than our next meeting. Like if we wanted to send out her revised application,
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
especially
to
since
Let her know right away.
since we can all do our evaluating and scoring on Submittable. I think maybe what I would suggest is that we get back to her and say, we would like for you to resubmit with an updated event date and event details. And once you submit, we'll get back to you within 2 weeks' time, and it gives us enough time to turn it around. And it just means that we're gonna have to rely on you to score, and we're gonna have to make that call without having a meeting or anything like that. It's gonna be,
Yeah.
we'll have to just do everything via email.
I think she
Yes, okay.
presented in one of our meetings. I think April, it might have been the one I was recorder because you weren't there, because I feel like I remember trying to spell her name or take notes on it. And I remember her presentation, if I am correct, being really compelling, and there were videos, and I feel like there's probably not many of these. So if she's applied before, but yeah, I think it would be great for her to resubmit, and because it did seem really, it was a very compelling presentation.
Yeah, she probably did, because I feel like when Beth was still here, she had asked me who some grantees that might be able to come chat with you all would be. And I suggested Sankar from the Immigrant Story, and probably Jayne, because they've both, like, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's
So that's probably what it was.
Okay, so I think what I'd like to do is just put a pin in this one. I'm gonna get back to her and say, I think we would like for you to make your mind up about which one where your need is greater, which one you want more. And if you do want to do the in-person event, then we'd ask for you to resubmit ASAP, and we'll get back to you within 2 weeks. And then we'll just kind of handle that one independently. Does that sound agreeable to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm hearing support. So we'll go the route with that route with that one. Sorry. I'm getting tongue tied, and it is almost
that flute fair, the flautist at the flute fair.
So we're just a few minutes before 8. So I think what I'd like to do is have you go through, and if you haven't already, score just for the practice of doing so.
And we're just gonna score the first 2.
Yeah, so just the Oregon Society of Artists and the John Nguyen.
I think it's Win, just so you know.
Win.
Is it Win?
Win.
It's probably Win. Nguyen. Yeah, it's Vietnamese.
They're all one syllable.
Win.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You should have received mine, Ms. Jayne.
Yeah,
You can see the scores kind of coming up on the left-hand side, I think.
yeah. I'm like, you will see each other's, and there's nothing I can do about it because that's how it is. So yeah, 2 of you have reviewed so far. So
Mine shows up a little differently. So here.
And if you can't do Submittable and you wanted to just do the 5 criteria with 20 points and just tell me what those are.
This is good practice though, that we're all doing it here. Of
Because
course,
essentially like this is all gonna be done in advance.
Mhm.
Like you are gonna be asked to do this before we have a meeting this next time.
So next time it won't be so much of the busy work of reading the applications and looking at it together and stuff. We'll already be here and we will see these like
Yeah.
differentiations of like, here's a 98 versus a 46. Like, what do we want to talk about? You know, sort of things, which helps.
I don't see anyone else's scores but mine. Am I looking at the wrong page?
You are
I-
seeing probably just your own scores, but I see everyone's up here and I think I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
sharing. So
Got it, got it. Oh, I
once
see.
everyone
That's
else,
why.
mhm,
Got it. Okay.
wah, wah. So I have all admin access, the power.
I only see a 98 and a 46. Is that what everybody else is seeing?
Yeah,
That's
I guess
all.
I do see it on the list of all
Mhm.
three. It does say the same thing on mine, but I don't
Yeah,
see.
I don't see anybody else's in there yet. Has anyone else finished their scores yet?
I did it, and I think
I'm
Jayne.
still working.
Okay. So yeah, got Jayne's and Destry's in there. Yeah. Nobody else's has saved in there yet. And then same for this. Yeah. Not that I'm trying to rush
So
you.
I
I'm
should-
just showing
I
everyone
should
where we're at.
save as a draft, right?
You can save it as a draft if you want to go back to it, but if you have completed your score, then go ahead and just click complete.
All right.
I like to save them if there's a lot of them and it takes me a couple to kind of get back into the swing of like where my scoring is, you know. If this is an 80, what does that put this one at kind of thing is how I have to do mine. But I don't
Okay.
score these. So it's on you guys. Okay, so now we've had 5 people from this one, which is great because that is probably all 5 of you. The only other people that are on it are Laura and I and my faux account for instructions. So this one is done. And then John's is just waiting. And then this one we'll have to review the next time.
Okay.
So this one's complete, Laura, even though it says 5 out of 8.
Okay. So we have an 86.4 for OSA.
Mhm.
That's the average. Kourtnee?
It really depends. We've funded things that are down in the 70s before, depending on which grant it was.
No. I mean, is that the average
Oh,
score?
that's the
all of-
average of everyone's score. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a high score.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it's very high score.
So I will say that, like, just do we all feel comfortable with the request, granting the full request amount, which is 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Yes, but I
Any-
don't vote.
Any nays? Any nays or any other recommended award amounts want to be entered? Okay. So it seems that we're going to go ahead and make the recommendation to award OSA the full $1,000 request. And then John Nguyen, Nguyen, I don't know why.
It's like a W at the beginning, like
I
win.
know,
Yeah.
Nguyen. I just need to say it a few times and then I'm
You
gonna
get used to it.
have it. So do we want to? How are we feeling about this one? Do we want to consider it for the open format because it's more appropriate, or do we want
course.
to?
I mean, I think the fact that it is not in Beaverton and there seems to be, very little, if any, audience that it would benefit for the city, I would say no. If it was here and if there was some kind of a plan to promote it, I'd be 100% behind it. I just think it's
Yeah.
What is the deadline for our open format, or how would that compare to
It's
other?
rolling. It's the same as the small project grants.
So he could have just already done this now and submitted it to the other one and didn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
might have done this one as opposed to that one because the last time he had gotten grant funding, he did it through this one. So he might have known the application a little bit more and might not have even read some of the other ones or really known what that was, which is why we're doing a grant info session.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we have to also bear in mind that the event that he's proposing or asking for money for is in April, which is a month and away, month and some change away.
yeah.
Don't think
Wow.
he's gonna be able to resubmit under open format. I mean, I think we either consider him for an open format grant, just out of our own assessment of that it's probably a better fit, or we just say like it doesn't meet the criteria of public benefit for Beaverton.
I just feel like he would have needed to give it, like, we need information on who is this benefiting in Beaverton other than the overarching group, who specifically in Beaverton. Is it a group of high school students? There's just no information on.
Yeah.
It's vague.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like we are not recommending an award for John at this time, but I am going to provide that feedback and see if they're interested in resubmitting. Because they can continue to they can apply again.
The idea is great. There just isn't a measurable success.
Yeah.
Or impact, yeah, for sure.
It's such a
For
cool
sure.
event. Like, I really feel like I wish that it were being held here, or it were supporting numerous musicians from here. Just
Yeah.
something else, like, just isn't like, it's almost there, but not quite. And
I agree.
yeah,
Or like if he did do the open format ones, if he was going to do them there, and then when he came back that he was going to teach workshops here himself, like bringing back that experience to be able to then teach workshops or something along those lines,
okay. Well, how does everybody feel about where we landed with these two? Does everybody feel like that's where we're gonna get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel fine about it. I think the Oregon Society of Artists gets their grant and the other two don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask Jayne to resubmit and have us reevaluate.
Sure, that'd be great.
And I think as long as you all feel comfortable, so what to do in between the time. So we have our next grant application closing, the deadline's on the 4th.
Okay.
And the one after that is on the 25th of March. And then we're going to pull everything together and give you time to get into Submittable and evaluate and all that stuff, get your scores in.
Yep.
All that stuff is going to need to be done before we meet. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. But the
That's
nice thing
great.
is that you can do it on your own time as you want to.
Is the Submittable scoring system something that is just, it's already set?
We set it in there, yeah.
Yes, I said it.
Oh. Okay. And is the reason it's set up on a 20-point scale so that it adds up to 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard because it's like we could do 5-point ones, but we would have to consider it in 5-point increments.
Yeah.
We've done it this way because we used to do paper copies where somebody might give it a 13 instead of a 15, so I just type them in individually. That's the
Right.
scoring regimen is I enter it like that. So
Okay.
they should be those three grants, the large grants, the Art Lives Here community grants, and those small grants will all have the same scoring
Okay.
as you just looked at. And then that
Yeah.
open format is that a little bit slightly different one that Laura went over.
Okay.
But they should all be set in there. Just so you guys know, we haven't seen any of the large project grants come in for next week yet. Doesn't mean we won't get a bunch at the last minute, because that's the name of the game. But
Okay.
if not, we may end up extending to the other deadline, and then they'll really be just kind of a little bit more compact. So hopefully we'll get enough in there that it won't be too squished together.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, if we're on our own and we just read through it, do the scoring, send it back, and we're done, that really doesn't take that long, now that we are familiar with the process.
This first one was the lengthy one.
No problem.
So I think when we'll figure out, like, we'll look at keep our eyes on the number of applications for the large grants, and just see, like, is it going to be, do we have enough applications where it's actually like competitive? And if it's not, we feel like it's just really poor turnout, then I'm going to just choose to extend it. We'll let you know in any case, when you're going to be able to get in there and look.
Okay.
Where are the
Sounds great.
grants other than like online? Like where generally do the public become aware of them in Beaverton? Or is it outside of being online? Like, is it at any farmer's market or something? I feel like to attract different audiences of having it posted in different places, is that an option?
I wish it were an option, Destry, but it is, right now it is not.
What about other social channels?
So we do through our city, all of our communications are done through our city communications, social media, city channels, and we only get Fridays.
Fridays?
Because it's like they have to do everything for the city. So we only have one day. And we do promote on social media. We promote the grant programs. We've also done it in our e-news.
That they can set up, if they were going to do, like, say, for example, social promo using various channels like LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., on the city pages, they can set the timing of when that pops up on the feed. So they could set it they could do their work on a Friday, but they could set it to actually appear any day of the week, like a Wednesday at 10 a.m. or something.
They do that, but they do it like there's like a Friday Arts Day, or like Wednesday is for water and things. So it's specific topics for those days.
I see. Okay.
So they do set it up in advance, but they do it. That's how they do it. We get more when it's like the art show, because we get one post per day, whether anyone else has stuff or not. It's just the name of the game. I've also said that.
Yeah, I just want to say also that our team feels like, we just don't get the greatest marketing communications right now, because the team is spread so thin on all that the city is doing. And we're not really like wanting to be, stinkers about it, because there's potentially a reorg that's happening, and like there's just a lot going on. And so I think we're trying to like let status quo be status quo and use the things that we have. We also get into trouble. Usually it's flagged if we put into our budget for any of our grants or events, like if we have marketing in there, finance will call that out, and they'll be like, that needs to go through the marketing budget. And so it's a sticky one. And I would agree with you that we're not getting the word out the way that I would like to get the word out.
Okay.
So there's a lot of room for improvement there. And I think eventually we're going to get there. But the other thing that's very active right now is that we're doing a whole like renovation of the city website, and that's kind of front and center for communications right now.
We also, you know, we're also coming out of a pandemic where we're still in the pandemic and out of the pandemic. So even in the last couple of years, just the grant applications have gone down, whether people have had to extend their projects because, hey, we planned this for June and now we can't have it till November, but wait, we can't have it until the next March because, you know, people don't know where things are at right now too. So part of it has just been the
Right.
numbers have been dropped because of that. We've definitely seen it the last couple of years.
And
with
that's citywide.
grants. That's
like,
everywhere.
For all of our granting programs,
Sure.
the applications have subsided.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that makes sense.
And I'm sure they'll pick back up one day, but this is kind of our new norm. So eventually things will get to a new norm, sort
Yeah.
of.
It's a great idea, Destry, though. I really like.
Like
don't
at the library on a bulletin board or something. If one of us like wrote something down of like apply for Beaverton grants, could we just put that up on the library like board? Is that allowed if it wasn't going into city budget or having or someone?
They would probably take it down if it wasn't branded.
Yeah, if it's not city branded, and then I have to go through communications to do anything like external. So
Sure.
You can't even put anything up on the library
But
board without it going through the library people.
Because if we're trying to be diverse about the audiences that we're reaching, if we can't even do it outside of city budget, that seems like a massive problem of being able to reach. Because I mean, honestly, for the majority of people that are who we aren't reaching aren't signed up for the city website. They're not
Right.
following social media. They're not involved. They're not thinking
Mhm.
about this. I as a community member wouldn't be like, oh, I'm looking for a grant. Let me see what the city of Beaverton's offering. I'm looking at foundations or you know, trusts or different things.
Yeah.
And even that takes a certain level of knowing to seek it versus calling artists. If you have a small project grant, like that's, I think, who we're trying to reach.
right.
yeah, well, I would say that if you all wanted to do that outreach on a one-on-one level, I would be totally supportive of that. We do not have the capacity to be doing that kind of outreach for this program.
So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
put something up in the library and just leave it there till it gets taken down.
Destry, you troublemaker.
Ready? I'm
About
gonna go
it.
do it.
How about this, Destry? I feel like I can ask our communications marketing staff about it and whether we can get a quick and dirty flyer up there. I'm happy to ask. I don't know what the answer will be, but I'm happy to ask, and I don't feel like it's a good idea to go rogue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll
I agree.
I'll let you ask before I go rogue.
Okay.
I don't want to know.
If you could
Don't
get
tell me.
flyers, I would be totally about helping getting them distributed in the community.
Okay.
The
'Cause
other
there's so many
thing,
places where you can put that kind of stuff up. We just need the, official.
yeah, the piece of paper.
Budget, what would it be to print out small flyers if we made them ourselves? What, like, I mean, how many flyers can you print for even like $50?
Yeah, and the thing is that we can't make it ourselves either, is sort of
Right.
the thing. It has to go through
Yeah.
the city branding and the marketing. And if they saw
Yes.
them out there and it hadn't gone through there, then
It's
then
not,
we won't
it's
be
a-
able to do any of them anymore.
yeah, it's way outside of protocol. But
Yeah.
Some of the things to consider would be how to encourage people, community members, to share
Mhm.
the social posts that are on the
Mhm.
city platforms, channels, social channels. And
Yeah.
that would be something that you guys could
Mhm.
use the mailing list and say, hey, everybody who's on our mailing list,
Mhm.
whether it's just commissioners or whatever, here are the social posts, the link URLs that you can share,
Mhm.
this week or whatever, or this month or whatever.
Mhm.
That might get some activity.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I do like the idea of getting the flyers again. So if we did and you guys want to help distribute, that would be awesome. Because as a person who used to distribute all the flyers, it is not a 5-minute job for one person.
No,
So
it's not.
I know, I mean, just even tracking down some people, like I said, sometimes you have to track down a high up manager to get a flyer on a billboard at Starbucks, like you just, there's so many places with different protocols about that kind of stuff that it's hard.
Places that people are going to be going. I think
Yeah.
protocols are meant to be questioned when they're not reaching enough of the targeted audience. And
You
and
want to,
I think
Yeah,
our
do
mayor
it.
is really interested in increasing that diversity.
Mhm.
So it seems like if you're not doing enough, you need to do more.
Well, I think we have to temper that a little
we
bit.
need
but-
to just pause the recording here.
No, I mean,
No.
we just need to choose our words wisely.
Mhm.
You know, I think what I will say is that we are very, very slim on resources, human resources, people, money. We could try to do all these things, but the money just is not there right now to do them. The city is in a major budget crisis at current. So
And
to
I
ask
did
for-
notice that the Student Art Awards was in the Pamplin Media, the Beaverton Valley Times. I mean, we could
Yep.
try to get the grants in the paper, like that one got in. I guess Kourtnee, you did that. I saw your name on there.
They reached out to us and then I worked with Diana, yeah. But they reached out to us specifically and then I went through our
Yeah.
person who does articles and things like that specifically. Like they had to go through that and I had to go through Diana and it all had to get monitored before it went back out. So there's that.
It's a
behind the
process
scenes-
too.
Yeah, exactly. To get probably 2 sentences.
Yeah, I think that this is, I think honestly, Destry, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think that these are things for us to talk about for like what we want to do in the next year, what impact we would like the Arts Commission would like to have, and whether it's, you know, figure out whether it's realistic and we can, you know, shape shift and do something different and change our outreach strategy and all that stuff. There are a lot of pieces to that puzzle, and so I want to make sure that it's not as easy as just being like, yes, we'll change course and we'll do this, because it involves a lot of players and
Process of where we were creating it and getting it approved by the city, if there were budgetary restraints, if that was an option, or here we're not, you know, to save. I see. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, no, I know. And I'm not meaning to be negative at
I'm
all.
still
I
young
just-
and hopeful. Don't take
I
this.
know. I appreciate it. And I
So young.
I feel like the part of the dance in this time, but even in the time before I left, is like figuring out which battles that I need to fight. And like, you know, it's really, this is a steep hill to climb on this topic right now for the city. So, you know, and I say this, I can't even tell you the number of times that I've said, like, I can't believe all the good work we're doing that no one is hearing about. And it is frustrating that we don't have more resources there to support it. Yeah.
Well, if you guys need any help on the marketing front, that is what I do. So
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I mean, I think I wish that there you know, I think that I wish there was more openness to having outside folks help, but right now that's not the appetite for that is not there. And
got it. That's
yeah.
okay.
And well, I think we'll see. I think there's an organizational scan that's going on, potential reorganization, which might move communications to a different part of the city. Like there's all kinds of moving chess pieces right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of want to see how that all shakes out before I then say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and really figure out what's going to work
Yeah.
given this new structure. So
Mhm.
I know that's not a great answer, but that's kind of my instinct right now, is just to see how things shape up.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, you got to see that before you can figure out where you want to, put your influence. So that makes a lot of sense. Cities and, governments
Mhm.
do things very different than the private sector.
Yeah.
So where I might be running, something very broad and fast and
Mhm.
deep, it takes cities a little longer to adopt some
Yeah.
of these practices.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, right now we're lucky to have funding that we're able to give out in grants. So we'll take what we can get, you know, like we should be so fortunate that we can, that we still have access to doing things like this. So I try to take it one grain at a time. Like it might not be everywhere at once, but at least we're able to help who we can. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think that for me, that was part of, as we talked about these three, that, you know, choosing one that will help a larger population and have an impact more broadly, seems like it's kind of important. And I know, you know, veterans is a narrow scope, but you know, a healthy veteran helps everyone.
yeah.
I had a quick
And they've-
thought about getting the word out. In our like staff liaison updates, could we put that like, so all the staff liaisons to all the boards and commissions say something about the arts grants, or does it not work that way? Would someone have to go to a public comment or something?
We can send it to the staff liaisons to put in their announcements, which I did.
Yeah.
And we have met with the cultural inclusion, those folks. We've met, I've sent it to Mayor's Youth Advisory Board for the Youth Art Awards and the grants. So
Been
in
there,
terms
done
of the
that.
other granting programs, I've gotten the
Yeah.
word out, but I haven't sent them to all staff liaisons, and I certainly
Yeah.
could. I certainly
And-
could.
Yeah, and we did send it out, like, we sent it out through our newsletter, but because it correlates with the cultural inclusion, they had me send it along to them. So it went out in their newsletter as well. So there are like linking factors. It's just not
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what I'm willing to do is ask to see if we can get a real, you know, simple flyer, e-flyer that we can either print and post, or we can circulate just electronically. And I will go out on that limb and see what I can do.
I think that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you and good luck.
Let's
So
do it. Good night.
Good night.
Well, I feel like we are way over time, and I think I need to release you all. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Kourtnee, for guiding us through Submittable. And if you have any questions along the line, both Kourtnee and I are here, and Kourtnee's really, she's got the most experience navigating Submittable, but I can also help if you're kind of stuck somewhere. Yeah, and I will let you know how the conversation goes with Jayne, and you know, hopefully she's eager to resubmit.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
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 Wait, I can't read this. Are you sure you want to stop recording? Yes.